Larry K.
Shake Money. Larry K and Shake are back on Phin-Addict Fury. I had to touch base with you mid-season. You know Shake's doing his thing all the time. You see him on the blender, but I am still alive. We got our matching polos on. This is our style,
Yeah.
our swag. Shake, how you feeling, bro?
Feeling good, man. Feeling good. As always. When is this airing?
This is gonna air like tonight, tomorrow. This is gonna air this week, bro.
So if it's Wednesday tonight, tomorrow we have I have Big C, and then Tuesday I confirmed Lisa, the new fan of the year, 2020-24 fan of the year. Lisa Fights Cancer will be in the blender Tuesday.
That's great.
So that's that. Other than that, everything's good, man. We talking about how we became Dolphin fans and this and like that. So, but speaking of which, unlike Tyreek Hill and Jalen Ramsey, I'm not asking for a trade.
So we're stuck here, bro. No trades for us. I might sometimes people think I got traded because I'm not around, or maybe I'm not at the team mandatory, or I'm not at the voluntary practice sessions, but I'm still around and I ain't going nowhere. Is what it is. We are stuck. Shake lights his cigar. You know what we do. We're going to be back for the season. The Dolphins had a draft. There's a lot going on, but you guys know my feelings on this current iteration. It's hard to get me inspired and get me up, but I just want to be here for you guys, the fans, and not necessarily fans of the Dolphins, but the fans of, Phin-Addict Fury, the people who've been supporting us, the people who watch in the blender, because Shake, he does his thing. This is a year-round channel because of Shake mostly. But the shows have been awesome, and to get the number one fan on is just huge. So those of you out there watching, if you haven't yet, click like. I don't know what you're waiting for. Click subscribe. But we're going to talk, Shake. We're going to talk about how are you feeling generally at this point? You saw the offseason stuff. We heard some of the rumors, Mike McDaniel, guys wanting out, contracts, the draft, all those things. How are you feeling right now about this season and the whole franchise?
Well, if you look at this, they call it the country club mentality. You think about the people that want out I think are spearheading this type of culture, in my opinion. Look, what's his name? Mike Tomlin said it best. We want volunteers. We don't want hostages. So if you don't want to be on this team, then that's on you. Because if you look at Jalen Ramsey, he has this type of pattern. He did it with Jacksonville. He did it with the Rams, and now he's doing the Dolphins. So it's the story of the scorpion and the frog.
Yeah, and bro, it's a good point you made about the quote from Mike Tomlin. We want volunteers, not hostages. It's one thing I find it a little bit aggravating that guys want to come down here because there's a big payday, there's fun in the sun, there's no income tax, and in my opinion, the way Mike McDaniel and Chris Greer and the whole thing is being run is kind of a country club where it's player focused, it's a easy go of it, it's a good work-life balance. And then when they get all those things, they want to turn around and act like they're being held hostage and it's not the right fit for them. And they want to go out and be in a better situation. And, I blame the leadership of this team and the management of this team, because I've been saying this for a long time. I know Lewis has been saying it for a long time. Other people in the community, that the laid back players first mentality, you jettison every coach that they don't like. You jettison everybody that doesn't fit their particular mode. You had we're kicking rocks and whatnot. Javon Holland, when the Super Bowl winning defensive coordinator leaves, and I know there's a lot of nuance to that, but I'm about over this country club, players first. And I'm not saying players shouldn't be respected and held in high esteem. Of course they should, but this should be a well-oiled machine that wants to win and wants to do right by the long-suffering fans, not an organization that's looking to give guys paydays and have them come chill in the sun and treat it like a big joke where, hey, we chill out, we make money, we share jerseys, and then we leave when we feel like it. We're suffering for too long, Shake, and we keep the lights on by buying tickets and merchandise.
And by the way, speaking of Mike Tomlin, it's serendipitous that we bring this up because I'm listening to I'm re-listening to In the Fish Tank, right? And one of the reasons I'm listening to it is because it's kind of revigorating my love for In the Blender, because that's where it came from,
Mm-hmm.
my muse, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
And today I was listening to the Marquise Pouncey, and Marquise Pouncey was the Steelers is the where people say that Mike Tomlin is a player's coach. He said he's far from it. He's a disciplinarian, like Brian
Right.
was. So at this end of the day, even Mike Tomlin doesn't like that. He said if he's gonna get, he says he will show embarrass, like he will embarrass people, like show plays. Hey, what you do here? What you do there? You know, it's not that laxy attitude in Pittsburgh as well. So that's one reason I want to bring that up, because for some reason he's getting that label of being a player's coach. Then I also wanted to plug in listen to Fish Tank. We had OJ McDuffie on here,
Mm-hmm.
great guest, and he's gonna be on next year as well. But yeah.
Yeah, bro. And I think if you even look at like one of the things I do, and this is what, we get made fun of by other teams' fans sometimes for doing this. I really don't care. I go back and watch like classic documentaries of the 70s Dolphins, the 80s and 90s Dolphins. And one of the things that comes through is the players from the 72 team and the 73, the 71 through 73, the 3 Super Bowl appearances, 2 wins. One thing that's constant is they're like, I hated Don Shula when I was a player. The guy was like, he was killing us with the drills and the relentless pursuit of perfection, and he worked us hard. But one thing all those guys have in common is after they won those Super Bowls and they went down in history for the rest of their lives, they love that man. And when they would go see him and they would pop the champagne and they would talk about him, they respected him and loved him for the players that he made them. Now, this day and age is never going to be the same as the mid 20th century, but there's something to be said for somebody who gets the absolute best out of you and demands the absolute best out of you, who will cement your legacy. And Shake, let's face it, you should demand the absolute best of yourself. This half-ass stuff that the Dolphins have been doing is not cutting it. And I'm not saying you got to be an asshole, but you
Yeah.
sure as hell got to get the most out of guys and have some accountability. Some of the stories we were hearing about, maybe I'll find this guy, maybe I won't. Guys weren't showing up right. Guys weren't like talking back, bro. Like I'm just done with it, and I don't think it works.
Yeah, and shout out to Lewis in the Blitz pickup. He was saying that, look, Mike McDaniel is a hell of a coach. It's just his the players aren't executing. When you look at the all 22 and you see that there's players open and as TD says, meat left on the bones, then you know what I'm saying, you got to question why aren't the players executing.
And let me ask you this, Shake. To that point, I don't think anybody would question that Mike McDaniel, as a offensive scheme designer and a play designer, and
Correct.
also a game innovator, right? Because if you go back and you look at why Miami was so successful in Mike McDaniel's first 2 seasons, and then it seemed like they kind of hit a wall and they were a little bit in the mud. If you look at the NFL rule changes, even kind of stifling his pre-snap motions and things that enabled the team to get one over on everybody else and to be ahead of the curve, there's no question that Mike McDaniel is an offensive innovator, a game innovator, a great play designer. Now, I think there gets to some level of doubt or conversation when you start to ask yourself, is he a great play caller? I think there's some debate there. And then further, is he a great head coach? Because I want to ask your opinion. I don't necessarily see the role of a head coach and the role of a play designer or a play caller to all be the same role. Now, sometimes they can be the same role if it works, but I might think that the head coach is more of a motivator and a general, like a manager of personnel and discipline, whereas the offensive coordinator may be, the guru play caller, chess player, or even if you have a co-offensive coordinator, somebody else is a great play designer, not necessarily a play caller. I understand your point about the players, and I agree with you. When it comes to the current management and direction of this franchise, what are your thoughts on Mike McDaniel? He may be a hell of a coach in terms of schematically and calling a play and putting guys in positions to succeed from an X's and O's standpoint, but is he putting them in positions to succeed in terms of discipline and motivation? And should he be? Is that the job of the head coach?
Well, I'm glad you asked that because if you go back to filming Brian Flores, Adam Gase, so forth and so forth, if you look at their last 3 years, Adam Gase, Brian Flores, and Joe Philbin's last year in the organization, they look dejected. They look like they didn't want to be here, because I think that when they are trying to put discipline on the star players, or again, this is purely my speculation, okay?
Mm-hmm.
When he is trying to do some discipline or whatever, I believe that the front office there is like remember Casino, where Joe Pesci got mad over him because he went over his head.
Yeah,
I think that's what's going on. These players are going over the coach's head, and he tries to discipline them, but the people over his head are overriding him. So what can he do?
that's a great point. And I just watched Casino, bro, like this week, and I had to show my girl. And by the way, Scorsese has a lot of great films, but I thought that like composition of the music, the transitions in the film, everything, like the visual display was one of his best. I just want to say that.
All right, let's say let's say you have your job. Let's say you have somebody that he's a repeat offender, and you know what, you want to show him, what, I need to teach him a lesson, but the people over your head go, no, we're just going to give him probation. You'd be like, what the? You'd be like, you just throw your hand, like, if that keeps happening, you're just going to be like, what the fuck am I coming? What am I doing here?
No, you're right. I think that's a great point. I think that, again, is embedded in the culture of this organization. Part of the reason Bill Parcells packed up when Stephen Ross came in, and now Chris Greer's been here since the turn of the century, and the culture has been embedded, coach after coach. I do think, obviously, we know there's some nuance. I think Philbin, Gase, and McDaniel, not the same guys in a lot of ways, but similar offensive X's and O's type guys who are, I think Flores was a little different. He pissed the players off in a different way, but that doesn't change the fact of what you just said. They all, one way or another, rebelled against the coach, went above his head, and it's a players first organization in that way. And these coaches, they don't get the final say. They're constantly undermined by the front office and the organization. Look at Flores, Shake. Like, whatever was going back and forth with he and Tua, like, I speculated when it happened that there was some him or me type thing going on between him and Tua. Yeah. It has never been completely confirmed, but if you look at Tua's comments recently in the offseason, like he was a terrible person, I think it's pretty much confirmed. The organization
Omar Kelly confirmed it this offseason.
He did. You're right. Omar did. We were saying that, and it was true. I mean, it's just, you can't run an organization when you take, you basically, for lack of a better term, cut the balls off, castrate a coach, and now he can't do what he was hired to do, and it's difficult. Now, do you think, so you're saying it's a player organization thing that Mike McDaniel, but do you think, here's my speculation with McDaniel. Flores was trying to be so hard on these players that they brought McDaniel in with the caveat that he had to buy into this philosophy of players first, you kind of lay down, you are, I think he was hired with that mandate. And now that he's realizing, I got to go back on that, these guys aren't disciplined enough, he's having trouble getting back there. Do you think he was hired with that mandate, or do you think, just like the other guys, he came in with an agenda and he was just undermined?
Who knows? I mean, one could say, because look, again, all the coaches that I mentioned, the first year was good, and then the second year was like really good. From there was a jump from year 1 to year 2. So year 3 we come in with great expectations, and like I said, if you look at all of these coaches, they look like they were dejected, like whatever. Okay, I'm just a glorified babysitter at this point instead of a head coach.
Yeah, it's brutal. And so now my thing is pivoting into this. You have a guy who had good play designs, but who defenses figured out in some ways.
Mhm.
The pre-snap, rule changes I think really hurt him. But I also think that a guy like Tyreek just getting older and just generally some of the stuff in his antics, I think off the field, it's just getting to a point where, you know what, Shake, we see this, I feel like, with a lot of wide receivers and other talented skill players. Like as they near their career, they could still be at the pinnacle, but it's going to start going like this because it's just age. You see them start getting a little bit out of control. They got a ton of money. They got a big reputation. They've been getting away with stuff for a long time. Things aren't great on the field. And there just starts to be a lot of distraction around them. There starts to be a lot to be desired. And I just wonder, in this modern NFL, I just think teams have a window, like a 3 to 4 year window where they're going to catch on and be elite and be competitive year in and year out, or they're just going to miss the bus and they're going to have to rebuild again. I hate to say this because of how promising this rebuild initially looked. And we had all those picks, Shake. Then we had all that talent, and it looked like we were setting the world on fire for 2 years. But it just seems to me like some of our most talented guys are either trying to be traded, asking to be traded, aging out a little bit. And I just wonder if McDaniel came in with a whirlwind and had his window already. And now that everybody's caught up, and now that the vibe is getting a little stale and the loyalty is getting a little stale in there, if it's just on its last leg, and we're going to see this year another disappointing year like we've seen so many times before, and if we're going to have to tear it down again.
Well, I could say two things, three things that I like that we did offseason. Move one is a move that we didn't do, which was restructure to his contract, which is kind of sending a message. Say, look, Tua, we're giving you your last chance. This is your prove it year. If you prove you're worth building around, we'll probably restructure you next year. You know what I'm saying? But we gotta give him that carrot, stick or carrot, as they say.
Yeah.
The second move, this year they put a little bit more thought into the second string quarterbacks that they brought. You got Zach Wilson,
I agree,
which is a quarterback that he scouted when he was in San Francisco. Because remember,
I agree. Yeah,
they scouted Trey Lance, they scouted Trevor Lawrence, and they scouted obviously he was going to be number one, Zach Wilson.
Mm-hmm.
So and Zach, he even said it that there's a lot of things that he saw in his college tape, and he ran a similar scheme. This is shout out to Ali. What they did in college, he ran what Dolphins do. Not to mention, if you look at Zach Wilson's best year, it was under Matt LaFleur, which was a Shanahan disciple.
Yes.
Then he kind of suffered when he went under Mike Can't Hackett in the NFL. You know what I'm saying? But that's neither here nor there.
Mm-hmm.
That's the second thing is the type of backup quarterbacks they got. Quentin Ewers has similar skill sets as Tua, so they've gotten the quarterback where it's not like you have Tua, then you have Skylar Thompson, which were polar opposites. So they put a little bit more thoughts in the backup quarterback just in case. And the third thing I would say is a lot of their free agencies is 1 year deals. So if in case of, that way they're not tied down to any new contract, so they could kind of, I think they're doing a, not a rebuild, but I would say a financial restructure, if you will.
That makes sense. And let me ask you this about the quarterbacks, because you mentioned it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of the opinion, Shake, that the one thing, you could say Larry K is checked out on this regime. Larry K is just ready to move on. And there's a lot of that's true, right? I don't buy that they're going to succeed in all this. However, one thing that's actually intrigued me slightly, and I think anybody who denies this is either like a liar or they're lying to themselves internally, right? Because you've seen Mike McDaniel and what he did with Tua. And there's people out there that think Tua was always some super elite guy, and there's a lot of reasons why he was elite in college. There's a lot of reasons why he had limitations. I personally think what Mike McDaniel did with Tua was really impressive, with the way he designed the offense around him, the way he got him to play at the level he did. And here's what's intriguing to me. You're lying to yourself if you're not the least bit intrigued by what Mike McDaniel can do with a young quarterback with certain physical assets. And like, we can make fun of the MILF hunter, Zach Wilson, all we want. But when he was a Jet, you never thought like, wow, they're going to get to the next level or whatever. However, he had some physical assets throwing that ball and running that I'm wondering with better coaching, what a guy like McDaniel has in store for him. And then you look at Quentin Ewers, and that was an intriguing pick to me because he falls all the way down to the 7th round, or I think it was the 7th round. Shador Sanders fell too, and other guys fell. But this guy was like the top-rated recruit coming out of high school. He has other assets, to his game. And I'm wondering if these quarterbacks don't just symbolize a steady backup in case Tua goes down. But if this team and organization is also investing a little bit in their future, and I'm not necessarily saying I buy it that either of these guys are going to keep McDaniel and Greer going and give me hope, because I still think you got to tear it down. But I'm wondering if one of these guys emerges and Mike McDaniel does something special with them. I'm just like sheerly curious, Shake, as to what's going to happen. And I wonder if one of them does emerge at some point, if that changes the trajectory in my perception, and B, I wonder if the team, as much as they're committed to Tua and all that, if they're kind of getting some younger guys because they still want some options,
Yeah. Well, they get, again, the younger guys, as far as what the quarterback room is concerned. Yeah, like you said, it's fresh mold clay that they could, get, try to see if they can get some of those bad habits out of them.
Right.
They're young enough where they're not stuck in their ways,
Right. Yeah. So I could see that. And I mean, so the other thing I find interesting is, look, I'm at a point where I wasn't the hugest McDaniel fan when he came in. I wasn't the hugest Tua fan when he came in. I liked Greer. I got to be honest. This is where Larry K, I admit everything, right? So if Greer is proven wrong and Greer was terrible, then I eat that crow. Like, that's on me. I'm not going to say I'm right all the time. I think I was right about some aspects of Tua McDaniel. Time will tell. I've always said I hope I'm wrong. I still do. I'm not so high on Greer anymore. But when they came in, I was kind of excited about Greer. And now I'm kind of ready to move on from him, to be honest with you. I think Greer's probably shot. I just don't think, after all this time with the organization having no success, that this guy should stay. Here's two things, though. First of all, I have to give some props to my boy Magoo, Stephen Ross, because I was definitely of the mindset, this freaking guy right here. Look at this mug. Look at his pretty face. You guys haven't seen it in a while, have you? I haven't pulled that trick in a while. So I thought for sure, Shake, that he was going to do what he's done before, and he was going to skate.
Better than this one.
Oh, that's how he was feeling this year. That's how he looks this year. That's our man, bro. That's Magoo. I thought for sure, Shake, that he was going to do what he's done, where he was going to scapegoat Chris Greer and keep McDaniel and make a change at GM to appease the bloodlust of the fans. And then we were going to be caught in the same cycle where now he's got to fire a coach and hire a coach for the GM. He didn't do it. So I actually give him props for that. I think where we are now is this regime, coach and GM, they sink or they swim together. And I'm all for that. I'm 100% on that boat. But here's the second part to that, right? Now, a big part of me thinks they just fail this year and they're both gone and we rebuild the entire thing. But here's the other aspect to that on two levels, right? You look at this draft that they just had, and I would have thought they would have made some big skill position splash or something to try to, get us to look at the glitter and the gold. But to your point you just made about 1-year contracts and like a partial financial restructuring, I saw them building in the trenches with these, a rushing attack, a D tackle, a guard. And I'm looking at this thing and I'm saying, one, maybe these guys, McDaniel and Greer, are planning to be here for the long term, even if they eventually move on from quarterback and Hill and whoever, and they're building from the trenches out, which they've needed to do for years and neglected. And on the other side, Shake, I'm saying, even if they're not here, at least they're getting young pieces in the trenches, and I'm here for it. What's your thoughts on that? Like, I don't love the draft. I think we had needs in some places we didn't necessarily hit, but at the same time, I didn't dislike it, right? We needed an offensive lineman. We needed more pass rush. We needed to build in the trenches. I don't know. I didn't hate it either. I mean, what do you think of that philosophy?
I like it because I think look, I know I'm labeled a Christian Wilkins hater, but I think we upgraded Christian Wilkins because we didn't have a true nose tackle. I think Christian Wilkins was a good defensive line. Listen, Christian Wilkins, if we're playing a 4-3 defense, Christian Wilkins will be the ideal scheme fit. But, unfortunately, he's a defensive tackle in a 4-3, not a defensive end in a 3-4. I think.
Yeah.
So we're playing the 3-4. So I think he's a better. He's not. I'm not saying he's better than Christian Wilkins, but he's a better fit than Christian Wilkins.
Got you.
And the fact that he's going to be the 3-4 defensive tackle.
Yeah. And we needed that. Let's face it. Like that was a bit of a void, and we needed that. And that when you run a 3-4, everything starts with that defensive tackle. I think in a lot of ways, you got to set the tone. That's literally the guy in the nose. That's literally the guy right there who's setting the tone for the entire defense in a lot of ways with leverage in the trenches. What'd you think of the offensive line pick?
But let's last before I do that. Let me preface also by saying, had we ran a 4-3 with Christian Wilkins, Zach Seiler, Phillips, and Phillips and either Chubb or Chubb Robinson, that would have been the ideal.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, we're not running that. So we need. I'm sure they're gonna run that when we do the dime or like maybe on some passing downs. We'll do 4 linemen, but again, is ideal. But the 3-4. But anyway, the offensive lineman is good because now we're gonna have the thing I like about it is experience.
Yeah,
you got the spinner, then experience with inexperience. So you have Patrick Paul, who's not that experienced. He's gonna be playing next to James Daniels, who has experience. Then you have the center. Then you have the rookie playing next to Austin Jackson, who's experienced. So you're not gonna have 2 guys that are inexperienced play next to each other. So it's a good mix of veterans and rookies.
Good point. Now, what do you think about, what was your thought on the entire draft now too? Like those were the top of the draft, but
the corner, I mean, it's a wait and see. I saw Chris Perkins say, you're not really gonna, if you think that 5th round, 6th round players are gonna be starting contributors, you're just, what I'm saying? But I mean, they can pan out, but it's not a realistic thing that they're going to be come in day one, be like,
Yeah, I get it. It's going to take time.
It's more of a crapshoot.
Yes.
Versus your early round picks.
Right.
But the thing I did like is the fact that now we have a 3rd round for next year. We'll trade Jalen, and then we'll have another pick as well.
Yeah. That's a good point. And we have some young pass rushers. We have some young guys who can do some things. So they're clearly building with an eye toward it. Now, I think our skill position wideouts are, I think Hill is aging. Obviously, Ramsey wasn't the same player last year, and now there's some banter about them wanting to get out. Tua, you still have the question mark as to, whether he can stay healthy. What's your general feeling about the season coming up?
It's a wait. I'm taking a wait and see, because look, we've been wrong about. There's many times where we come into a season hyped up and we're wrong about it. So why can't we be wrong about a season that we think we're not going to do well? You know, I mean, there's teams that are that come the first to worst. There's teams that make turnarounds and be like, damn, we didn't see that one coming.
Very true.
And of course, that's why we're too close to the situation to actually, because it's like, no, we're not. It's not going to happen to us because it's not going to happen. We have that mentality because we've been bitten before.
Many times. Yeah, many times. And
we try to keep it realistic as well. You know what I'm saying? Because if we was to get out of we was to put this team, and let's say this was the Jets or this was another team, we'd be like, we'll be a little more honest with the assessment
Well,
of this team.
yes. And I've
That's
been
why they say, isn't that what they say? He who has a lawyer for a client, represent himself as a fool for a client or something like that.
yes, a lawyer who represents himself as a fool for a client or something like that. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Because it's hard for us to glean in. That's what I tell a lot of people who get so hyped or get so down. Like, think about what another team's fans' opinion of us is, especially one that's not even a rival, just somebody who has a neutral position. What's their opinion of us? Because that's probably closer to the truth sometimes than our own opinions, which are definitely shrouded in
Well, obviously, just put a disclaimer out there, not division rivals, because obviously they're going to look at us from
exactly.
but we're talking about NFC fans or fans that have no dog in the fight. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. What do you think about these? Speaking of our division rivals, it seems like I know everybody hates them, but the Bills are still falling short in the conference, but seem to be the top dogs in the division.
Of
The
course.
Jets and Patriots make coaching changes. Do you think they got better? I think the Patriots for sure got better and made the smart move with what they did. The Jets, it's a no-brainer, the hire. Will it work? I don't know. The Jets seem to be in constant futility. Like, they're never getting anything to work. The Aaron Rodgers thing was a debacle for them. I mean, I can't say that I didn't relish it because they were so hyped and so convinced that getting Aaron Rodgers when he came out of his cave or whatever he was doing all over New York, New Jersey sports radio, it's going to change the Jets. The Jets are one quarterback away, one, offensive coordinator away from Super Bowl contention. And Rodgers was worse than Wilson the year before. I can't say I didn't enjoy that, but they're kind of now, after that whole debacle, they have some young talent. They have all that, but they made a lot of changes, and they seem to be just stuck still in Jets purgatory. And then you have the Patriots, who I think are always a steady organization, but have really not done well since Brady left. And now they make a change, which I think was for the better. What are your thoughts on those teams? Did things get harder for the Dolphins in the AFC East?
Well, first thing, let me say, I think one of the reasons why this Aaron Rodgers thing has got people so hyped up and is the fact that Tom Brady it's Tom Brady's fault. He went to another team, won a Super Bowl, and all of a sudden everybody started making that correlation. Oh, well, if Tom Brady, listen, stop comparing yourself to Tom Brady. There's not too many. And there's two things you're not going to find another 199th pick that's going to have 7 Super Bowls. You know what I'm saying?
Just not.
And secondly, there's not going to be too many quarterbacks playing in their late 40s that plays as well as he did. So,
yeah,
you know what I mean? It's like, I mean, he is what they call the exception, not the norm.
Yes.
But as far as the division, I mean, obviously, regardless of the changes or not, of course, it's always going to be difficult because they see us twice a year. And
yes, yeah.
But one thing I always believe and put a premium in is if you look at the Patriots, the dynasty, you look at the 49ers dynasty, you look at the Dallas, they didn't give a fuck who they were playing. They didn't let nobody. It's not my division. No, we play who we you line them up, we knock them down. So at the end of the day, it doesn't matter who got better. It's did we get better?
Yes.
And that's how I always looked at it. Did we get better? Even if our opponents, like, look at the Kansas City Chiefs. The Chargers got better with Jim Harbaugh.
Yeah.
And now Denver Bronco with Sean Payton and Bo Nix. You think Andy Reid and Patrick Mahomes are sitting going, damn, look, my division? Hell no, they're taking care of their business, because if you don't take care of your business, then you're not going to stand a chance against anybody else.
Makes sense. So it's up to the Dolphins, and it's up to the Dolphins to show a little bit more moxie than I think they did last year, where they just fell off towards the end, man. Tua gets hurt again. He's got the shades on at night at the end of the season. The Dolphins have to stop falling off at the end of the season every year. I mean, 2 years ago, They set out great. I know there were some considerations with, things happening, but you have to see the season through. It's a long season. It's a 17-game season, an 18-week season. And you know what? You're going to have to play in the cold. You're going to have to play in different weather. This team has got to give me an effort all the way through the closing bell, or nothing's going to matter. You got to get into the playoffs, and you got to be able to play. And I don't know if this team has it in them, because I'm not so sure about the way it's currently made up. But if Tua Tagovailoa wants to have any chance, in my opinion, at a lasting legacy as an impactful quarterback in this league, he's got to bounce back and have another, considerably good year like 2 years ago and stay healthy. Maybe not all 17 games, but not go out at the end of the season again. And if young guys got to step up because some of the old guys eventually do get traded or they're descending on their career or whatever, then they got to step up. But every year should be competitive for every NFL team. And I know it's not realistic every time, but there's nobody in this division. I know that the Buffalo Bills are now the reigning champions of the division.
Yeah, and the Bills don't care either.
They don't care. And other than that, like I don't care who anybody is. Like, you got to do something. And I know it's kind of pie in the sky. I'm so used to losing, but I'm curious what's going to happen. And to your point, the Pats don't care what we're doing. Pats fans don't care what we're doing. The Jets don't care. They're all going to go out there. We can, Jets fans, you could we could laugh at them about Aaron Rodgers and all that, but they turn the page. They're moving forward, and we need to do the same. Even with this same look, it didn't go the way it was supposed to last year. We, screwed up 2 years ago. You don't think we are, making the best decisions? Tua got a huge contract. They got to go out there and prove me wrong and prove other people wrong. I'm not that optimistic, to be honest with you, but we'll see what happens. Other teams have gotten good too. I said it last year. Watch out. Just because we made a couple moves doesn't mean not everybody else is making moves. And I was wary last year that we had already missed the boat, and last year kind of turned out how I thought it would. I'm hoping I'm wrong this year. But it is what it is, right? I'm not a huge fan, but I will say I give Ross props for not doing half-ass stuff and getting rid of one or the other. This regime, meaning this quarterback, this GM, and this head coach, Jake, they live and die together. And I got to be honest with you, I think this is the year that they've got to show something collectively, or I could see Stephen Ross moving on, unless McDaniel and Greer get lucky, where if Tua falters, one of these other young quarterbacks steps up, or where Tua just sets the world on fire and some unexpected thing happens, like another injury or something. I think this is the put up or shut up year for all of these guys. What's your thoughts on that, assertion by me?
I agree, but listen, if this guy wants to run it back another year, we have no choice.
I know.
But listen, if McDaniels falls on his ass, at least he has this to at least he has backup plan.
Anybody need a TV or anything? Or play a Madden? I'm good at Madden, man. I'll dominate. What do you think of Mike McDaniel's appearance these days? This is just some random stuff. What do you think of his new swag, like with the longer hair and everything? You think that's
Or listen, now that he has that swag, how you have cover bands?
Oh yeah,
he could do a cover band for Humpty.
Bro, those glasses are on point, and that nose, that cold nose. Yeah, I'm fat. Look at me. I'm skinny. Mike McDaniel, come now with me. Yeah, that's it, bro.
Yeah. The McDaniel's dance is your chance, dude.
So look, we'll see what happens with these guys, man. I mean, it is what it is. We're fans. We're locked in. We're doing the show here. We're hanging out with the listeners, and we're gonna keep bringing stuff. We got more stuff coming too with the behind the scenes and the cross examination. Shake's already been telling me we got a couple new press conferences I got to analyze. But Shake, anything else you want to talk about or bring up before we wind down this episode of Shake and Larry here on the Phin-Addict Fury channel?
No, just the fact that look, training camp isn't. We still got some training camp battles. Let's see who emerges. One thing I was talking about in the blender, we had the Marlins, Miami Marlins, for a brief stint. We had Derek Jeter as the CEO, and he had one of the things that stuck out to me in his interviews, because anything. I was a big Derek Jeter fan when he was a CEO, so I looked up any interview I could find from Derek Jeter, and the one thing he said was before he took the bat, you know what I'm saying, nobody knew who he was. You know, and at the end of the day, everybody has an opportunity to make a name for themselves. He didn't have a name for himself before when he took his first bat, when he first played for the Yankees. Nobody who knew who Derek Jeter was. Now you know who he is now. You know what I'm saying? So I'm sure there's a lot of young talent, and let's see if they can make a name for themselves. You know,
I like it,
that's,
and
that's what I'm hoping for. At least,
well, you know what, Jake? Yeah,
it may not be realistic, but that's what I'm hoping for.
And you know what? That's one of the things that makes the NFL and sports and life in general interesting. You never know what could happen in any given year. There could be a player emerging that we don't even think about or know about who could change the trajectory of the team, or at least give us a memorable, fun season. So I'm hoping for that. We're going to talk again before the season, long before the season. We're going to jump back into things when training camp starts and into the season and all that. But I just wanted to touch base, man. It's always a pleasure to talk to you, to talk to the fans out there. If you're remember, click subscribe. Remember, join, become a member, get some of those behind-the-scenes videos. But we just want to let you know, man, I'm still out here. Make sure you tune into In the Blender, because that is one of the best. Let's face it. You got a lot of off-season content, a lot of great content creators talking Fins all off-season long. But the only place that you're getting a reliable host with a good structured show and interesting guests who are interviewed and talking about things you didn't know about them, but also within the Dolphins community. The only place you're getting that content is in the Blender and here on the Phin-Addict Fury channel. So I thank Shake for even, bringing that here and continuing to do that. And make sure you guys are tuning into that as well. We hope you enjoyed chilling with us today. And we'll be back in the offseason to talk again with you. We hope you like this format. Shake and I back and forth in a calm manner, just talking some logical stuff.
And let me give a shout out to two guys who there's a lot of guys who obviously watch the show a lot, but Cosa Nostra and my man Raphael Courtwright. Those guys are amazing. I appreciate them. Just want to give them a quick shout out.
Yeah,
especially
man.
Raphael Courtwright.
All those regulars, man. Raph is always on there. Cosa Nostra is always on there, and it's crazy, Shake, that we started this. What was it, 3 years ago? 3 years ago now, and it's grown to where it's grown, and it's almost second nature when you and I hop on the mic, and it just flows because we're so comfortable doing it. It's funny. I listened to the StreamYard audio tester, and I used to be nervous when I would hear that because I would be getting ready to go on, and I wasn't on all the time, and I'd be getting ready to go on.
And even you too, Michael K. Even you too.
Yeah, even Michael K. Yes,
yeah.
And thank you for being a loyal member in the in crowd too, official Fury fan member. But now it's just crazy how it's second nature, and all you guys are the ones to thank. So no matter what happens on the field with the Dolphins, we're here with you guys. You guys are here with us, and we appreciate that. And Shake, I appreciate you a whole hell of a lot. So thanks for coming on with me today, my brother.
For sure, man. My pleasure. I appreciate you calling me up and giving me some of your time, because I know you're a very busy man.
Yes, sir. But it's always a pleasure to be with you, bro. We will see you guys soon. Shake and Larry K are out.
I know you heard me on the radio flexing. She loved the sound of my voice, it's the best thing. Daydreaming of the jazz all day. Pick up the phone late night with Larry K. I know you heard me on the radio flexing. She loved the sound of my voice, it's the best thing. Daydreaming of the jazz all day. Pick up the phone late night with Larry K.